We'll win. That's actually so.
Okay, so
we're going to be here again tomorrow.
We're looking for donations. Take more currency.
the President of the United States.
Bandmaster,
Yes, Mr. President.
please play Dixie.
But sir, that's a secessionist song.
It is one of the most cherished songs that I've ever heard, and it's good for the South to know that they are free once more to hear.
Yes, sir.
That song always brings a tear to my eyes, sir. We'll wait a couple more minutes. only thing I can think of is that one time there was a description of myself in kind of a saying. It talked about a gentleman riding his horse along the trail, a rather skinny trail, and a young lady coming the other direction on her horse. And she slowed down a little bit, and I kind of slowed down a little bit. And she looked at me as I let her pass. She goes, "My, sir, you are rather ugly, aren't you?" I said, "Well, I'm sorry, ma'am, but there's not much I can do about that." And she piped in that, "Well, you could have stayed home." Thank you very much. Probably should have kicked her off her horse, but I'm joking. Well, I caused a bit of a commotion early 1863. I kind of had an idea it probably would, but wasn't really too sure, but it was something that I felt needed to be done. I'll read you kind of parts of it and see if you can catch on where I'm at. By the President of the United States of America, a proclamation that on the first day of January in the year of the Lord, 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then, thenceforward, and forever free. So far, so good. And the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons, and will do no act or acts to repress such persons or any of them in any efforts they may take for their actual freedom. And further declare and make known that such persons of suitable conditions will be received into the armed services of the United States, to garrison forts, positions, stations, and other places, and to man vessels of all sorts in said service. And upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice warranted by the Constitution upon military necessity, I invoke the considerate judgment of mankind and the gracious favor of Almighty God. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States to be affixed. What could possibly cause a commotion? Well, the South didn't care for that too much, did they? Though I believe they had an idea that that was one of the main reasons for this Civil War, but they didn't like me anyway. Well, what happened with that proclamation in the North? Well, it was met with applause by many, of course. But there were those that thought, well, wait a minute. How many thousands upon thousands of slaves are going to be now free? And where are they going to go? What jobs are they going to take? What areas are they going to move to? Believe it or not, the North wasn't really too happy about it, many of them. Of course, the slaves were. And then I also heard the little scuttle about, well, did I actually free any slaves at all? Of course, I only talked about the rebellious states in the South. I wouldn't touch the states up north, or I really couldn't touch the border states. Why? Because they weren't in rebellion. As a war effort, which is what this proclamation was, if they were not in rebellion, I could not change any of their state laws. So that's why I didn't have this dealt with Kentucky, Missouri, Maryland, and Delaware. Thank you, Delaware. So, what did it free? Well, there were territories that we had already taken over. I think Tennessee was one of the bigger states. So all those slaves there were instantly freed. Any of the slaves down south, as our troops moved into their territory, that would rebel against their landowners and come across the lines into the Union side, they were now free. and also that they could take up and join the army and help us end slavery for good. They liked that idea. They didn't like the idea that it was a white man's war. They wanted to be involved because it had to do with them. It freed up a lot of our soldiers instead of them digging trenches and doing a lot of the menial services, we could have the freed slaves do this labor and get paid for it. They liked that idea. And it also, as you probably know, it brought this war kind of in a circle to, well, what are we fighting for? Is this to bring the Union back together, or are we fighting for a lowly slave? Am I going to give my life in a battle for a lowly slave? Think about it. Many of them didn't like that idea. But we felt it was the right thing to do. I had been pressured many times to have the freed slaves join the service. Many thought that, well, they couldn't handle a rifle. They don't know what they're doing. Many of the white generals and officers didn't want to command a unit of freed slaves. It was rather challenging. But I definitely felt it was the right thing to do. And I will stand on it that I believe it is the right thing to do. So there. Later on, I'll take some questions that you might have about that.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Moment of Mr. Jefferson Davis has escaped and has not been found yet.
Jefferson Davis has escaped,
Yes, sir.
and well, that's a good thing.
Is it?
Yes, because I really didn't want to prosecute him. Because how are we going to end this war? How are we going to bring the Union back together if we start taking General Lee and Jefferson Davis and other generals and officers of the South and throw them in jail or in prison? We couldn't do that. Like General Grant said, him and I discussed it. Let the South up easy. Let them have their firearms, their horses, their mules, go back to their farms and hopefully not starve to death. So that's okay. I think maybe he might pop his head up somewhere.
Keep Ben with you. Go back and get him.
Okay.
He
He's rather egotistical. He'll be here.
Go
Don't
back
worry.
and get him.
I'd also like to point out Mr. Peterson of oh crud. Harper's Weekly. That's right. He's a special correspondent for that. So if you want any of the latest news on the battles and how the war is going, you talk to him about it. And if you happen to hear anything that you don't care for or don't think it was the truth, I can have him thrown in jail, okay? I don't think we're going to have to worry about that, no, will we? Thank you for being here, sir. On this ground, in early July of this year, 1863, history was made. Men gave their lives for what they believed. With raised arms, cheers were lifted up, along with prayers. You see, both sides read the same Bible, pray to the same God, but the prayers of both cannot be answered. And for now, the cannons are silent, the muskets have all been stacked aside. There's a solemn presence blanketing these few acres here like an early morning fog. The earth beneath our feet is quietly shouting. Here lies a soldier, a comrade, a hero. Here lies a father, a brother, a son. We are assembled here today to honor those who fought and died on these surrounding battlefields. I have been asked as Chief Executive of the nation to formally set apart these grounds for their sacred use by a few appropriate remarks. Can this be accomplished? Standing here before you, many thoughts travel through my mind. And gazing out over the rolling hills, the gentle valleys, the grasses blowing in the breeze, I can see the markers, the mounds of earth, the wooden boxes. Can there be an explanation for such a scene? Can there be a comfort for all the sorrow? Can there be an answer to the many questions? What do you tell a mother to ease the pain of her son not coming home? What words do you use for a wife whose husband won't be returning to her? How do you explain to a young child that her father won't be there to see her grow? How do you relate that it was for the right reason? It was for freedom. It was to preserve the Union. What words do you utter? What letters do you write? What address do you speak? 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation, so conceived and so dedicated could long endure. We met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggle there have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion. That we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. Thank you very much. And thank you all from the bottom of our heart that you're here today. Without you, it would have been really weird. So we thank you for that. Yes.
President, would you like to take some questions from the audience?
That's not a bad idea. Who's got the first one? Back there, the guy in
Ford and Mrs. Lincoln have a lot of influence on your decision making. And also follow up with that, who influenced you a lot during your time?
So, Mrs. Lincoln, what kind of influence did she have on you during the war? And were there any other people who had a large influence on your decisions?
on my decisions for the war. Before the war, Mary, no, not really. For my presidency, yeah. She, when she was a young girl, she told her friends, her girlfriends, that someday she will marry a man who will be president of the United States. That has been documented. What she saw in me, this country bumpkin, I have no idea. But she saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. So she pretty much helped push me along. Her father was a businessman. He was into cotton. He was a politician. They knew Henry Clay. So she kind of helped push me along so that she could be the wife of our president. And I went running home to Mary, and I said, Mary, we are elected. So she had a big influence on that. The war, it just came one day at a time. What's going on? These states left, those states left. There's rebellion, they're taking over forts, armaments, all the federal installations down south. What is going on? It was definitely rather challenging. Stanton. Oh, so he was legit when he said that. You couldn't find him. Okay, wow. When I finish my question, then I'll get to what I just found out. Thank you very much. I thought you were giving me a line there. Yes, as far as the war, it just kind of happened. And Stanton and Seward were my big, yes, because they kept me on an even keel. I just wanted to trash everybody. Oh, I wanted to do everybody in. They said, well, wait a second, you can't be that strong with your wording. So they pretty much helped me along, you know, lighten up a little bit, pal. They didn't really use those words. It's a bit close to them. So, yeah, so they were kind of my influence in that respect. My biggest influence was the Constitution of this United States. I based all, well, pretty near all my decisions on our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, not on my own ideas, my own opinion. That way I could sleep at night, and I could back up everything that I did. Did I pull a few shenanigans? Of course I did, but I did it for the good of the country. Good question. I had just been notified twice from two different people that Jefferson Davis did hightail it down south. I think he took a couple $100 million Confederate bills with him, but that's like worthless. So I guess he didn't want to debate or didn't want to discuss where he was coming from. Interesting. Maybe tomorrow he will. Good question. Anybody else got a question? Yes, sir.
Could you, on the lighter side, explain the facial hair and your hat?
On a lighter side, my facial hair. What the heck? My whiskers, sir? My whiskers. Well, I never grew my whiskers until I was in my 50s. I had this long horse face, and I had always been told that I was kind of sad, melancholy, which is what I was. There was a lot of hardship in most families back then, but there was a lot of hardship in my family too. My mother passed away when I was very young. My older sister, in pregnancy, she passed away with her son. Both of them died. And I always blamed her husband who did not call the doctor in time. We were out in the middle of nowhere, but I can see that, but still. My father and I did not get along very well. He didn't like the idea of being educated out in the frontier. Why? Because you can't eat a book if you're hungry, can you? If you survive the winter's freeze or the winter's starvation, you were doing pretty darn good. And a book's not going to help you. So there were some challenges there. So things were rather challenging, and so a lot of it I felt on my sleeve. I felt in my face. Well, there was a young lady who lived in Westfield, New York. Her father went off to a convention, not a world fair, but a city fair, and there were some publications there, newspapers with drawings of Mr. Lincoln running for the presidency. She looked at him when her father brought him home, and she said, you know what? That Mr. Lincoln looks pretty darn sad. I don't think he's going to win this election. Unless, maybe, if he grew some whiskers. So she said, I'm going to write him a letter. Now, she had almost all brothers, and they all laughed at her and kidded. He is so busy, he's not going to have time to answer your letter. Well, Grace Bedell did write that letter. I received it, and I replied. She asked if I had any daughters, because she was sick of her brothers, and she wanted a pen pal. And I said, sorry, my dear, but I have only sons, no daughters. And as far as my whiskers, do you think it might be a little too affectatious, a little too showy, this late in my running for office, that maybe they'll think it's like a desperate, last-minute thing to try to be president? So I told her I would think about it. So she really didn't know which way I was going to go. And everybody still kind of laughed at her about it and she was a little embarrassed. Well, I did become president. And in going to Washington, the train that I was on, we went through a lot of the cities that voted for us, and it kind of helped me be president, so I wanted to thank him. Well, we went through Westfield, New York, and the train stopped. I opened up the caboose, and there was all kinds of crowd there cheering and everything. And I said, is Grace Bedell in the audience? And they said, Grace Bedell? Why does he want to talk to Grace Bedell? So she was there. I stepped down, I bent over, I kissed her on the cheek, and I said, see, Grace, I grew these for you. So I grew the whiskers for her. And two things come out of that I like. One is, because of that, she changed the face of Washington. I was the first president to have whiskers. Also, it lets you know that a 12-year-old can change some things. So what I say to youngins now, write a letter to your teacher, your principal, your mayor, the governor, the president of the United States. Give them your ideas, your opinions, your problems or whatever, and I bet you will get a reply from them. So your ideas, your thoughts are important, like they were with Grace Fidel. Now her and I did go back and forth a couple more times with letters and everything like that, and it was just a sweet relationship. So that's a long answer for a short question. Yeah, and there was a short film called, about her too. But you can read about her. She's authentic, real like hell. I don't know if I'm real. Anyway, she's real. Any other questions? And we're going to be here again tomorrow. So go home and tell all your friends on social media and have them come tomorrow.